Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.
Hello, I'm Emily Metheny, your host. This week, I talked with Ashley Haynes, Director of Communications and Marketing for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. We talked about what the organization did last year to pivot and give resources digitally and virtually, and what this year looks like for the organization. We start our conversation by talking about what KIB did last year.
What's kind of strange this early part of 2021 is I keep comparing it to like last year at this time in January of 2020, we were still going outside and like having meetings and seeing volunteers in person. And it just feels almost surreal that still a year later, we're just in such a different environment, particularly for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. That's a nonprofit volunteer organization with work largely based on bringing groups of people together. So in spring of 2020, we were only able to actually have one volunteer tree planting project. We planted 100 trees along College Avenue, and it was a beautiful, warm Saturday morning in March. And like everybody was just so excited to finally be outside after the winter. And we were looking forward to a really great spring volunteer season. And then the middle of March, all of our work and activities completely shut down for March and much of April, just because nobody knew what was going on, what was the safest way to continue work, how long a pandemic like this was going to be in effect. And really, we were just wondering, like, well, how in the world do we do work that is normally done by 10 to 15,000 volunteers every year if we can't bring people together in groups? And that was probably the biggest impact on KIB's work and projects in 2020, is that we couldn't bring groups of people together. So in a typical spring Great Indy cleanup, which is one of our litter abatement programs, we'd have a couple hundred, sometimes up to 400 or 500 people come out on a Saturday morning to help clean up a neighborhood, to paint murals, to plant trees, to do all of these activities together in community. And we just couldn't do that for the health and safety of our community and of the people that live in Indianapolis. So we very quickly had to flip a lot of our programming virtual and digital, just because that's where people were all of a sudden spending all of their time. That was the best place to reach and to engage people, to let them know that KIB was still around, that there's still work to do, even though it was going to look a little bit different. And the easiest volunteer programs to do that with last year were our litter cleanup programs. So in late March, we launched an encouraging people to, you're stuck at home. That doesn't mean you have to be stuck inside your home. You can take a solo or immediate family walk around your neighborhood and pick up any litter that you see and still be able to give back and do something good for the community, even if we're not able to come together. And we did a virtual version of our Great Indy Cleanup on April 1st last year, where at 12:15, so like lunchtime, we said, just head outside for just 15 minutes. If everybody in our city could head outside for 15 minutes to pick up litter, to spend some time outside in nature, to wave at your neighbor across the street who's doing the same thing, how awesome and powerful would that be? So we had really great participation in both of those virtual individual hybrid type of volunteering experiences last year. We're going to do another virtual Great Indy Cleanup to kick off our spring cleanup season again this year at the beginning of April. So I'll be sharing more information about when, where, and how about our virtual cleanup for this year. And as the rest of 2020 progressed, and as some of the lockdown restrictions were lifted and smaller group gatherings started to be okay, and we understood the importance of wearing masks and social distancing and hand sanitizer, we did start to have some in-person volunteer opportunities last summer. Some cleanups, some green space projects, which are really easy outdoor space to help create native gardens and plantings, easy to spread out and keep that safe social distance. We did start to do some very small group tree plantings last fall. Our tree planting projects are some of our most popular volunteer projects. It's an amazing impact to head outside in your neighborhood, not knowing how to plant a tree or really much about trees beyond that trees are really good and that they're pretty and they provide shade. And then to walk away from a KIB tree planting knowing the importance and knowing how to plant a tree. We give you all the information and skills and tools that you could literally go out, buy a tree and plant it in your yard and feel confident that you planted it in a way that it's going to live for a long time. So people love coming out to tree planting projects, but because of how heavy some of our trees are, they do require multiple people to be in close proximity to each other, to move the trees, to lift the trees into the hole, to dig the holes. So those tree planting projects, we had very small groups of volunteers come out to help. Those primarily groups that were either family members or had been in regular contact with each other. Hopefully this year, we are planning to have more public volunteer tree plantings starting in early March. We're still working on the exact date and locations for this year's spring tree plantings. But we learned, I think the biggest thing about 2020 is that we learned a lot about how to host safe, socially distant volunteer projects. And we're going to take those learnings into our work this year. We're just still working on finalizing all of the details, paying really close attention to Indianapolis's COVID rates and any restrictions that the county is currently under. We will continue to limit our group sizes to about 25 or whatever the Marion County guideline is. We'll have hand sanitizer, masks required at all of our projects. We'll have extras if you come and don't have one, social distancing at all of our projects. Just trying to give people a safe experience to come outside and do something in their neighborhood. One of the things that I heard a lot last year, particularly right when we had to stop doing volunteer projects in the middle of the spring season, where people really wanted to continue to give back. They really wanted to volunteer. They wanted to do something. And I think during a lot of 2020, when there was so much uncertainty, so much feeling of powerlessness and not knowing what to do, the ability to do even a small action like picking up trash or planting a tree or planting a flower really gave people a sense of involvement and connection. And I know for me, like literally something to do. So we really hope to continue this year to provide safe in-person experiences, but also continue to provide an online and digital way for people to get involved in KIB's mission.
Excellent. And if someone's interested in following along and seeing when all those updates and all the information is coming out, what's the best way they can get that information?
The very best way is to sign up for our monthly newsletter, Get the Dirt. Sign up for that is at the bottom of KIB's website, which is kibi.org. If you already get too many emails and you want to bookmark just our volunteer calendar, which is where we will post our projects that are available for sign up, that is also on our website. And that is kibi.org/projects.
Excellent. And you mentioned that you will be continuing a lot of the virtual and digital projects. Can you talk about some of the ones you did last year and how you're going to do them this year?
Yeah. So we will have a virtual Great Indy cleanup to kick off our spring cleanup season. That will look similar to asking everyone in the community, wherever you are, on a particular day to head outside and spend 15 or 30 minutes picking up litter. It's just a really easy where you are with what you have. I know I have a million plastic grocery bags stuck under my kitchen sink. Those make a really great cleanup tool. You can use one as a glove hand protector and the other one that you can put trash in. Something else that we started last year was a e-learning series. A lot of parents still have kids at home doing virtual learning. So our director of education, Heather, put together a series of videos and at-home learning activities that you can do with kids, both either in the house, but also the lessons are so you can take them outside and do things like leaf collection or finding pine cones, kind of a nature hide and seek scavenger hunt where engaging kids and learning about nature, doing something active, getting them outside, and just another tool for parents to use who still have kids at home. Similarly, we put together a number of videos because we couldn't have people come out and plant a tree with us or plant a native flower garden. We had our KIB staff do videos that can teach you how to do that at home. So we'll continue sharing tips and tricks like that. I kind of like to call it, if we can't do KIB together out in the neighborhoods, we can all do KIB at our homes. And we really just want people to be able to engage in KIB's mission of helping people and nature thrive in the city wherever they are, no matter what size of group is able to come together to provide the tools and the knowledge and the resources to do a litter cleanup at home, to plant a tree in your backyard, to create a native plant garden in front of your house. So continuing to provide people with ways to get engaged in those activities right where they live.
Perfect. And you've mentioned it a couple times, but a native plant garden. Why is it so important to have native plants in your neighborhood here?
That's a really great question. So I know that a lot of people love and recognize the monarch butterfly, the beautiful orange and black butterfly that you see in late summer around Indianapolis. So that butterfly, as we all know from elementary science class, started out as a caterpillar that then turned into the butterfly. But the monarch butterfly caterpillar is a specialist insect. And that means that it has one particular plant that it needs to eat as a caterpillar in order to then grow and turn into a butterfly. That plant happens to be the milkweed plant, which is a native plant to Indianapolis, which means that if there were no people, the milkweed plant would be growing in Indianapolis naturally. There are some plant species like the Japanese maple tree that were imported from other countries. If we don't have swamp milkweed native flowers in Indiana, then there is nothing for the monarch caterpillar to eat, which means that we have no monarch butterflies anymore. So native plants are really important for a really important source of food for a lot of the pollinators and bugs. They provide food for them, which then, like bees, pollinate the farms and vegetable gardens that then create food for us to eat. So native plants are like they're the basis of the food chain essentially in the city. And so we really encourage native plantings. And most native plants are also perennial plants. So they will come back year after year. You don't have to worry about planting them again every spring. So they're really easy to work with. They provide home and shelter for wildlife, animals, insects, and they're also beautiful to look at.
And if someone wants to learn more about native plants as they're starting to plan, if they want to plant this year, or just in general want to learn about them, they can find it on your website, kibi.org.
Yes, they can. And something that we started last year, we had planned to do it before the COVID pandemic hit, and then it just became a great resource once we were in a pandemic, is we started our own native plant nursery at our office down in Fountain Square last year, and we're going to continue that this year. So this spring, summer, and fall, we will have native plants available for sale through KIB's website, and any plants purchased will go back to supporting KIB's programs to create more green space, more gardens, plant more trees, and help keep our streets litter-free.
Excellent. Can you talk a little bit about Art and Seek?
Absolutely. So there is a new public art, we'll call it scavenger hunt mixed with hide and seek experience available around the city. KIB worked with the Arts Council of Indianapolis last year and to install just over 100 new pieces of public art across the city. We worked with neighborhoods and artists that lived in those neighborhoods to create art pieces that range in size from like the size of your fist to a mural in some of the railway and highway underpasses. So all of that information can be found at indyartandseek.org. And part of the way that you can find the art is there is a map that we have, like a Google map that we have on the website, but there's also an app that we created. It's the AutoCast app that's available in your Android or Apple app store. Mm-hmm. And it will kind of like, if you're familiar with Pokemon Go, how you can like find Pokemon while you're walking around, it's a similar experience with this app where it will guide you to the art pieces. And on the app, you can also see photos of the artist's work as they began their art piece all the way to installation. There's an audio clip of the artist talking about the inspiration for their work, and then some additional biography and background on both the art piece and the artist. It's like getting to go to visit an art museum, but it's outside, so you can do lots of social distancing and take your family. It's a great way to walk around outside and also explore new neighborhoods in the city. The focus of the project was adding art and highlighting artists in parts of Indianapolis that aren't already arts districts. So Mass Ave has a lot of amazing murals and artwork, and so does Indiana Avenue and Broad Ripple. But there's other neighborhoods. There's other neighborhoods like Martindale, Brightwood that don't have a lot of artwork. So the purpose of this project was to add art and to the city and to encourage people to get outside and explore.
Excellent. And if people are going out and they're exploring the city, checking out Art and Seek, they're doing the Great Litter Cleanup, can they interact with KIB on social media?
Absolutely. And in fact, I am the person that reads all of the social media comments. So you get to be talking to me when you comment on anything. So we are on all of the major social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is at KIBIORG, which is the same as our website URL, on all platforms. So really easy, just to search for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, search for KIBIORG, and you can find us. We share regular updates about project programs, information about native plants. Today, I just shared one about why wetlands are important in the city. And so we'd love to have more people follow and interact with us on social media.
Perfect. I do have one more question for you. Is KIB doing anything ahead of March Madness?
So we are part of the sustainability planning committee for the giant tournament that's coming to the city. We are talking with DPW and the NCAA and the planning team about potentially doing cleanups ahead of the games starting. What we're waiting for is to know exactly what route, like where people are going to be traveling exactly to and from, like what streets, so we know where we can help focus. But that is another great opportunity to get involved in the spirit of March Madness. We probably won't be able to attend games this year. I know people are still really hopeful that maybe some games will be open to the public. My guess is that they won't be. But as a city, if we want to get out and host a cleanup to really show off the amazingness of our neighborhoods in Indianapolis, we'd love to have anybody host a Great Indy cleanup ahead of the March Madness tournament. But we're talking about what we can do to get involved to make sure that the events are as sustainable and litter-free as possible.
Excellent. And as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add at all?
I would just say that volunteering doesn't always have to be signing up to go be a part of a group. I know that there's a lot of people that are still really hesitant to gather in groups right now, and you can still make an impact and do something really good for your community just by stepping outside your front door, making sure that the sidewalk right in front of where you live is clear, saying hi to a neighbor, telling them what you're doing, getting them involved in helping you. We're really all about building and supporting the community in Indianapolis. And if there is a resource or something that any of your listeners need, please feel free to reach out to us. And if we don't have the answer, we can hopefully point you towards somebody that does.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That was Ashley Haynes, Director of Communications and Marketing for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. If you have any questions or comments or topics you'd like me to cover, you can reach out. You can email me at emetheny, that's EMETHENY at radio-1.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at EmilyDoesVideo. Thank you for joining me this week, and please join me again next week. Until then, have a great week.
Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.